Smack! A sharp slap rang out across the first-class cabin of Horizon Airlines, soaring at over 35,000 feet above the American skies. In an instant, the entire cabin froze. A young black mother, cradling her 6-month-old baby, had been struck across the face, right before the stunned eyes of dozens of upper-class passengers. No one had yet reacted. When a cold, commanding voice burst through the cabin's PA system. "Claire Ramsey, this is Marcus Ellison. You have just assaulted the wife of Horizon Airlines' CEO." The entire cabin felt as if it had been struck by lightning. Do you believe a single action can change a destiny? Like, comment, and subscribe now, because what's about to unfold is even more dramatic. Setting the atmosphere. 30 minutes before the outbreak. The deep blue sky stretched endlessly outside the windows. Inside the first-class cabin, soft light draped over expensive suits, luxurious silk dresses, and faces marked either by exhaustion or haughty disdain. Amara Jackson, a slender brown-skinned woman, sat quietly in seat 3A, gently cradling her baby boy, Isaiah. The infant stirred lightly, occasionally letting out tiny hiccup-like sounds. Amara wore a simple light gray hoodie and faded sneakers, completely out of place among the surrounding Armani suites and Louis Vuitton handbags. Subtle discomfort eyes glanced at them. An elderly man in a striped tie frowned. A blonde woman sighed audibly. Whispers floated through the cabin. A baby? In first class. No manners. Isaiah started to fuss. A tiny sound, yet in this elite cabin, it rang out like an alarm bell. Amara softly patted him, whispering, "Shh, baby, Mommy's here." Claire Ramsey approaches, hurried and cold. Claire Ramsey, the head flight attendant, strode through the cabin. Her eyes swept over Amara and Isaiah like spotting an error needing immediate correction. Standing stiffly before seat 3A, her uniform immaculate, she barked, "You need to keep quiet." "This is first class, not a daycare." Amara replied politely, softly, "I'm sorry. He's just a little tired." "I don't care," Claire cut her off. "If you can't control him, you need to leave this cabin." Claire's eyes radiated contempt, not because of the baby's crying, but because of their skin color, their modest clothing, and their very presence in a place she believed wasn't meant for them. Amara bowed her head, gently patting her son's back, trying to soothe him, unaware she was stepping closer into the heart of the storm. Climax. The vicious slap. Isaiah whimpered softly. Claire exhaled sharply, losing all patience. Smack! Without warning, Claire swung her hand and slapped Amara straight across the face. The sound cracked through the air, leaving a red imprint on Amara's cheek. Isaiah screamed. The passengers froze in shock. A cup of coffee crashed to the floor, splattering everywhere. A phone slipped from someone's hand, bouncing and skittering beneath the seats. The frozen cabin Amara, fighting the dizziness, clutched Isaiah tightly, patting him reassuringly. She did not cry. She did not scream. Her eyes, deep, dark, and fierce, burned silently. Amara's silence at that moment was sharper than any shouted protest. Claire smirked arrogantly and sneered, "Some people need to be taught their place." But before Claire could finish her thought, smartphones started rising into the air. Cameras and whispers, clicks of camera shutters filled the cabin. Passengers were recording Claire assaulting the young mother. A middle-aged couple whispered, "Unbelievable!" A young woman, wide-eyed, recorded frantically, "This needs to go on X immediately." Some passengers voiced their outrage openly. "That's assault!" "Is she out of her mind?" The CEO's voice. A dramatic turn. At that very moment, the PA system crackled to life. A man's voice boomed, cold and authoritative. "Claire Ramsey." This is Marcus Ellison, CEO of Horizon Airlines. The woman you just struck is my wife. Prepare to face the consequences." The atmosphere solidified instantly. The murmuring turned into dead silence. Claire's eyes widened in horror. Her throat dried up. No call to action here, to maintain the dramatic tension. Cabin shatters, Claire panics. A passenger whispered, "That's the CEO. She's the CEO's wife." "Oh my God, she's finished!" Claire stumbled. Her smug smile vanished. A bead of cold sweat rolled down her temple. And then, Captain Holloway's voice came firmly through the speaker. "Claire Ramsey, report to the cockpit immediately. This is an order." The walk-off shame. Trembling, Claire staggered down the aisle. Every eye bore into her. Some with contempt, some with pity, but mostly with a coldness that slapped her harder than she had slapped Amara. Amara remained seated. Isaiah nestled into her chest. She whispered like a solemn vow, "We will never bow our heads." When the cockpit door closed behind Claire Ramsey, a dark chapter of her life had just begun. No longer the queen of first class. No longer the symbol of authority in the eyes of passengers. Claire was left only with fear, humiliation, and a seething hatred. The grueling interrogation in the cockpit. Warm yellow lights cast over Captain Holloway's stern face inside the cramped cockpit. He stood upright, his gray eyes as cold as blades, locking Claire in his gaze. "Explain yourself immediately," Holloway growled, each word cutting into Claire like a blade. "Why did you strike a passenger?" Claire stood frozen, her hands clenched tightly, nails digging into her palms. "The baby was noisy, disturbing the cabin," she stammered, eyes darting around, seeking an escape. Holloway did not look away. "That baby is the son of Marcus Ellison, the wife of the Horizon Airlines CEO. And you just struck her in front of hundreds of witnesses." Verdict: immediate suspension. The captain pulled a slip of paper from his breast pocket, his voice icy. "Claire Ramsey, under regulation 117.5A. You are hereby immediately suspended for violent conduct against a passenger. Upon landing, you will be handed over to airport security for investigation." Each word felt like a cleaver. Claire staggered, her lips trembling. "No, I followed protocol." Holloway shook his head, eyes burning with disgust. "You disgraced Horizon. You dishonored the uniform you're wearing." Claire hides in the shadows. After the suspension, Claire was barred from returning to the passenger cabin. She was confined to the galley, separated by a heavy fabric curtain. From the first-class cabin echoed the incessant clicks of cameras, the murmured gossiping of passengers, the whispered reverence of the name Marcus Ellison. Each sound was like a blade, slicing deeper into Claire. Claire leaned against the cold metal wall, burying her head in her hands. Her mind spun with fear, shame, and then it morphed into something else. Hatred. Why was she allowed in first class? Why did everyone believe her over me? She must pay. The question swirled around, forging a dark scheme in Claire's mind. The beginning of a scheme. From inside her apron, Claire pulled out her phone. She knew the rules. Suspended staff were forbidden from using personal devices, but at this point she had nothing left to lose. Her trembling fingers texted Ted, her union representative and longtime ally. "Emergency. Being set up by the CEO. Need to fight back. Call me ASAP." Ted replied within 10 seconds. "Stay silent. Things can be overturned. Don't self-destruct." Claire scoffed. Stay silent while the whole world turned its back on her? She would not sit quietly and accept defeat. If Marcus Ellison dared to disgrace her before the entire cabin, she would flip the script. The plan. Reverse the blame. Claire crafted a perfect narrative in her mind. She would play the victim. She would claim that Amara was the aggressor, the one who provoked and disturbed others first. She would insist she acted for the safety of the other passengers, and if necessary, she would fabricate evidence. A sinister smile spread across Claire's face in the cold, cramped galley. Launching I Am the Victim campaign, Claire quickly created a new account on X using a fake name. Within minutes, she began posting, "Flight attendant wrongfully suspended by CEO's rich wife. The baby is screaming non-stop. I tried to help, and this is what I get. Reverse racism is real. Workers have no protection." Attached, a blurry photo, taken from internal cameras, showing only Amara cradling a crying Isaiah, carefully omitting the slap. Within minutes, the comments started pouring in. "Support the worker. Worker rights are under attack. We can't let the rich do whatever they want." The social media storm erupts within just 20 minutes. Claire's post had over 500 likes. The hashtag # Justice for the Flight Attendants began surfacing here and there. The dark side activated. Claire sat hunched in the shadowy corner of the cabin, clutching her phone. She no longer cared about the suspension. Her mind was now fixated on a single objective. If I must go down, I'll drag them all down with me. The dim yellow light reflected off Claire Ramsey's cold, sinister eyes, marking the beginning of a storm of vengeance that would engulf everything. The plane touched down in the blazing sunset of Los Angeles. Amara cradled Isaiah in her arms, stepping off the aircraft alongside Marcus. But unlike the other passengers, she walked in a haze. Half reassured because Marcus had stood up for her in front of the entire cabin, half unsettled by Claire Ramsey's look before she disappeared behind the cabin curtain. A look of defiance, a look promising revenge. The storm begins. While Amara focused all her thoughts on caring for Isaiah, not far away, Claire Ramsey made her first move. Hiding in a shadowed corner of the airport, she pulled out her phone, carefully cropped a photo showing Amara soothing a crying Isaiah, and posted it on an anonymous X account. No direct mention of Amara's name, no direct mention of the incident, just a few short, incendiary lines. A flight attendant was suspended for trying to protect other passengers from the deafening cries of a baby in first class. Justice for frontline workers. Spijkerkuur justice for flight attendants. Within 45 minutes, the post had been shared over 1,500 times. The online mob, always hungry for a reason to be outraged, began twisting the story in their imagination. A dedicated flight attendant crushed by a privileged CEO's wife. A selfish mother disrupting first class and then playing the victim. No one asked for the truth. No one cared for the truth. Social media explodes the hashtag number. Justice for flight attendants skyrocketed into the top 5 trending topics across California. Local media, sensing blood, began running unchecked sensational headlines. Horizon Airlines CEO faces allegations of abuse of power. Flight attendant suspended. After first-class scandal. Workers are pawns. The surge of support for employees. Meanwhile, Amara and Marcus remained unaware. They carried Isaiah heading straight home from the airport, carrying silent wounds and a naive belief that everything was over. When the truth falls into the hands of the deceiver. As soon as they stepped through their front door, Marcus checked his phone. The notification panel exploded. Messages from Horizon's legal counsel. Emails from the media department requesting crisis management. Dozens of missed calls from unknown numbers. Marcus frowned. A chilling premonition crawled up his spine. Amara looked at Isaiah, the baby still sleeping peacefully in her arms, and her heart tightened. She turned on her phone. Messages from old friends flooded in. Is it true you caused a scene on the flight? News says you were screaming all over first class. Be careful. Someone's live streaming against you right now. Amara's hands trembled. She clicked a link. A hastily edited video played showing only Isaiah crying and passengers grimacing. No slap. No Claire Ramsey. Only one image remained. Amara Jackson, a black woman with a child in her arms, turned into the symbol of disruption in first class. No way, Amara whispered. Marcus looked at her, his eyes darkening. They're framin' us. The first night, silent humiliation. That night Amara sat by the window while Isaiah slept in his crib. She gazed out over the Los Angeles skyline, the city lights flickering like dying stars. Threatening messages flooded in. Never show your face in first class again. Filthy rich trash. Bring justice back to Claire. It didn't matter whether she was right or wrong. All it took was a fabricated story, and the tide of hatred would do the rest. Amara cried, but the tears only lasted a few minutes. Then she wiped her face dry and clenched her fists. I can't let them crush my voice anymore, Amara whispered to Marcus, her voice steely cold. The rise of a warrior. That same night, Amara opened her laptop. She created her own X account and typed her first lines. I am Amara Jackson. I did not cause a disturbance. I did not scream. I was slapped, and now I am being defamed. No pleading for sympathy. No pitiful justifications. Only the truth, raw, painful, undeniable. She hit post, then sat there waiting silently, waiting to see if her small voice could cut through the storm of lies. A tiny glimmer of hope amid a black sea of hatred. Not much, but enough to ignite a fire within Amara. A fire that Claire Ramsey would soon realize could never be extinguished. No longer the timid mother cradling her child on the plane. That night, Amara Jackson became a silent warrior, armed with only one weapon, the truth. And she swore, with the bruises still fresh on her cheek, that this time no one would twist her story again. The bell of counterattack, Amara's post quietly appeared on X. At first only a few dozen people noticed, but all it took was one share, then another, and the flame began to spread across the dry grass. A prominent civil rights professor happened to see the post. He shared it, adding a short line. Don't rush to judgment before knowing the truth. This is a story that must be heard. And so the wave began. An independent journalist picked it up. A racial justice organization shared it. A former flight attendant from another airline commented, I've seen injustices like this before. Every share, every comment was a blow against the wall of lies Claire had built. The death of lies. In her shabby motel room, Claire Ramsey gripped her phone so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Amara's post, and its spreading influence, felt like a slap across her face. Stand with Amara climbed the trending charts. Short clips from passengers on the flight began to emerge, showing Claire slapping Amara squarely across the face. An anonymous passenger emailed the media. I saw everything. The flight attendant was completely in the wrong. Claire hurled her phone onto the bed, gasping for breath. No, this can't be happening. But she still had one card left. Ted, the union lawyer. Ted screamed over the phone, we have to strike back. Fast. The media battle. That very night, Claire released a newly edited clip. The video was just 5 seconds long, showing Amara trying to soothe a crying Isaiah, then cutting abruptly to Claire with a fake red mark on her cheek. No slap, no context. Only a story twisted to Claire's liking. Within an hour, dozens of fake accounts were created to share the clip, flooding the comments with, "Look at Claire's face. Attacked." She assaults the flight attendant and now plays the victim. Truth and lies became hopelessly entangled. The escalating war. Amara stayed up all night, reading every comment, every news line. Some believed her, some doubted her, and some were ready to judge her solely because of her skin color. Marcus held Amara's hand, his eyes steady. "Don't be afraid. You have the truth. She only has lies." Amara nodded, her heart like a seething lake beneath a thin sheet of ice. She had had enough. Enough of being condemned for her color. Enough of staying silent out of fear. This time she wouldn't back down. The plan to turn the tide. The very next morning, Marcus arranged a meeting with the best legal team in the city. At any cost, they would gather video evidence from passengers, demand Horizon Airlines release the cabin camera footage, file a lawsuit against Claire for defamation and assault. Amara, once a victim, is now transformed into a determined force seeking justice, not just for herself, but for everyone ever crushed by a system never meant to protect them. The battle behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Claire and Ted scrambled desperately behind the scenes, calling union organizations, sobbing as they painted Claire as a bullied victim, trying to stall Horizon Airlines' internal investigation, leaking false information to certain tabloid sites. Claire wasn't fighting for honor anymore. She was fighting to survive. And in her twisted mind, survival meant annihilating Amara by any means necessary. A call that resonated across the nation. 3 days after the incident, Amara agreed to a live interview with a major television network. No editing, no splicing, just her, Isaiah in her arms, and the truth. On camera, she spoke about the slap, the humiliation, the cyberbullying that followed the flight. And she ended with a line that left millions silent. "I will not apologize for existing. I will not apologize for sitting in first class. I will not apologize for protecting my son." The interview erupted into a wave of emotion across social media. Users flocked to find the truth. Hashtags number justice. For Amara and number fire, Claire Ramsey. Exploded. Horizon Airlines faced unprecedented public pressure. And for the first time in days, Amara saw a light piercing through the storm of lies. The light of hope. The light of justice. Collapse never comes with a roar. It arrives in whispers. The faint shuffle of footsteps outside the door. The quiet ring of a midnight phone call. The soft hiss of wind slipping under the door frame. And on that night, when the world outside thought Amara Jackson had won, she truly stepped into hell. The nameless threat. The quiet night lasted only until Amara's phone buzzed. A message, no signature, no name. Just 2 chilling lines that froze the blood in her veins. "You think you've won? We'll burn your house down." Amara sat frozen at the edge of the bed. Isaiah slept soundly in his crib. Marcus was in the living room, discussing the upcoming lawsuit with Evelyn. But the few steps between her and safety suddenly stretched into an ocean. She clutched her phone and rushed to the living room, her face pale. Marcus only needed one look to understand. He grabbed the phone, read the message, his brows furrowing so tightly it seemed he could crush the screen. "No more delays," he said hoarsely. "We need to beef up security immediately." The social media storm. Outside, the underground battle raged on. News of Amara's public speech had gone national. Clips of her holding Isaiah, eyes burning with resolve, spread at lightning speed. Stand with Amara became a symbol. But simultaneously, #JusticeForClaire surged among far-right communities. Underground groups plastered Amara's image onto posts with labels like scammer and societal trash. Some extremist bloggers even declared publicly, "If the government won't deal with her, we will." Amara knew. When truth was twisted by mad hatred, logic, and reason meant nothing. The counterstrike plan. The next morning, Horizon Airlines convened an emergency meeting. Marcus sat at the head of the table, flanked by top lawyers. He wasn't just protecting Amara as her husband. He was protecting her as a CEO about to step down, wielding all the power he still possessed. We sue Claire for assault, defamation, and incitement to violence. At the same time, we release all the evidence publicly, Marcus commanded. Evelyn nodded. And we hold the police department accountable for failing to protect the victim. This battle would leave no room for retreat. The street battle. But Claire didn't sit idly. Under Ted's urging, she hired extremist, patriotic groups to stage protests outside Amara's temporary residence. One stormy night, a crowd of about 20 people gathered outside. They waved flags, banged pots, and shouted vile insults. Placards read, "Justice for Claire. Fight against color privilege." Inside, Amara clutched Isaiah tighter than ever. Every shout, every echo from the street was like a blade slicing through her nerves. Marcus locked every door tightly. Private security tightened their perimeter. But through the rain and the chaos, Claire Ramsey's shadow, cloaked and hidden, flickered among the crowd. Her eyes gleamed brightly, like a predator who had caught the scent of blood. A new attack. Claire wasn't done. She unleashed a new weapon, a forged, edited audio recording. In it, Claire fabricated a scenario where Amara supposedly threatened the flight attendant. Amara's voice distorted and spliced to sound like she was shouting abuse at Claire. Several tabloid sites quickly ran with the story. The comment sections flooded. "That woman is truly trash. They shouldn't let people like her in first class. Claire was right from the start." Reading the comments, Amara felt as if a bucket of ice water had been dumped over her. Marcus gripped her shoulders tightly. "Stop reading," he said. But she couldn't tear her eyes away. Every word, a blade slicing at her dignity. She had fought for the truth. And now she watched that truth twisted once again before her very eyes. Faith that cannot break amid the storm of lies, Evelyn found a breakthrough. Using advanced sound analysis technology, their technical team proved. The recording showed clear signs of splicing. The audio waves didn't match naturally. There were unnatural gaps between sentences. Immediately, Horizon Airlines held a press conference to reveal the truth. The doctored clip was exposed. The fake recording was debunked. Major news outlets issued corrections. The tide began to turn. The climax. At the end of Part 5, after all the sleepless nights and moments skirting danger, Amira stood by the window. Outside, the rain had stopped. The strange trucks had disappeared. The angry crowd had dispersed. And on social media for the first time, the hashtag number Amara1 quietly appeared. Isaiah slept peacefully in her arms. Marcus stood behind her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. Neither spoke. Only their eyes, the eyes of survivors, said it all. The real battle had only just begun. When lies are no longer enough. When slaps, angry mobs, and 1,000 hateful comments still can't bring down the opponent. What remains is death. And that night, Claire Ramsey made a decision she could never undo. The plot is set. In a shabby motel room on the edge of the city, Claire Ramsey sat cross-legged on the bed, her blonde hair a tangled mess, her face hollow but her eyes cold as steel. A burner phone rested in her hand. Only one number was saved. No name. Just an icon. A snake. Claire pressed call. 3 rings. A hoarse voice answered, "Deal?" Claire took a deep breath, lips pressed tight. Her. As fast as possible, double the price. The voice on the other end chuckled dryly. "Target?" Without hesitation, Claire replied, "Amara Jackson. She must disappear." permanently. High alert across town, Amara felt an overwhelming sense of unease. The security team remained vigilant. Marcus was always by her side. Lawyer Evelyn constantly updated them on small victories, but Amara's heart refused to settle. A vague fear crept through her, like shadows sneaking through every crack and crevice. Marcus felt it too. It was no longer fear of the crowd. It was the fear of a lone figure. Someone silent, desperate, with nothing left to lose. And people like that were the most dangerous. The assassin. He arrived in Los Angeles without a sound. No paperwork, no trace. Only 2 items in his worn backpack. A Glock fitted with a suppressor. A blurry faxed photo. Amara holding Isaiah, her eyes burning with resolve. He didn't smile. He didn't curse. He simply worked. One last job. The day of destiny. That morning Amara had a live interview scheduled at a popular shopping center, an event designed to solidify her image before the public. Security was tightened, but no one realized the assassin had already blended into the crowd. Faded jeans, a gray hoodie, a low-pulled cap, a ghost among them. Marcus held Amara's hand tightly as they entered the main area. He didn't let go for a single second. Every fiber of his being screamed that danger was near. Unprecedented tension. Inside the hall, camera flashes flickered. Amara took her seat for the interview. Isaiah rested in the arms of a trusted assistant in the front row. The audience applauded politely. The assassin edged closer. In his hoodie pocket, his fingers caressed the gun's grip. His eyes locked onto the target, just waiting for a moment of distraction. Backstage, Marcus's eyes constantly scanned the exits. Suddenly he spotted it. A strange man was moving toward the stage with an odd gait. Marcus's instincts snapped into action like a coiled spring. He lunged forward. "Amara! Get down!" His shout tore through the hall. Explosion. Amara instinctively dove to the floor. At that very second, a sharp pop echoed through the room. A bullet punched into the empty chair behind her. The fabric tore and stuffing burst into the air. Screams of panic erupted. Marcus charged. He tackled the shooter before a second shot could be fired. The gun skidded across the floor. Security teams swarmed in, pinning the assassin within seconds. Amara clutched Isaiah, trembling. Marcus wrapped his arms tightly around both of them. "You're okay. You're okay," he whispered, his voice shaking. But they both knew. If Marcus had been half a second slower, Amara wouldn't have survived. Evidence against Claire. In the assassin's backpack, police found cash, a burner phone, a text message, "Amara Jackson. Urgent. No failure." Accompanied by a transfer receipt, traced directly to Claire Ramsey. Marcus requested a few hours' secrecy to consolidate evidence. Meanwhile, Evelyn rushed to obtain a warrant for Claire's arrest on charges of first-degree conspiracy to commit murder. That night, a SWAT team stormed the motel where Claire was hiding. She struggled, she screamed, she howled about her innocence. But inside her laptop, police discovered, tracking the schedules of Amara's movements. Emails were exchanged with the assassin, a detailed plan titled "Eliminate Target." Claire was handcuffed. Her face slammed into the police car's hood. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. But even then, her eyes burned with raw hatred as they shoved her into the car. That night, Amara sat by the hotel window. Outside, Los Angeles still blazed with city lights. Isaiah slept peacefully in her arms. Marcus sat beside her, his warm hand enveloping hers. They said nothing. They just breathed. They simply knew. They were alive. And the fight for justice had finally entered a new chapter. You can hide from public opinion. You can deceive the world. But when the truth steps into a courtroom, it doesn't need to shout. It only needs to exist. And on that day, before millions of eyes, Claire Ramsey would face what she could no longer twist. Justice. The trial begins. Courtroom 12, Los Angeles Courthouse, was packed to the brim. Reporters jostled behind the barricades. Legal commentators live-streamed every second. Social media roared. Number sign trial of the century. Amara Jackson entered, hand tightly gripping Marcus's. She wore a deep navy suit, her hair neatly tied up, her gaze steady, with no trace of fear. She was no longer a victim. She was a seeker of justice. Across the room, Claire Ramsey sat hunched over. Her wrists were cuffed, her face gaunt, her messy blonde hair hanging limp. Beside her, her defense attorney, a sweating, overweight man, fidgeted under the harsh lights. Judge Granger, a renowned and strict black woman, banged her gavel. The trial of defendant Claire Ramsey is now in session. The air seemed to freeze. The First Blow's prosecutor Lillian Price stepped to the podium. Her silver hair glinted under the lights, her eyes sharp as blades. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant did not merely assault my client on a plane. She did not merely orchestrate a campaign of defamation and incitement to violence. The defendant also plotted murder. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Some people's jaws dropped. Price continued, her gaze never leaving Claire. We have direct evidence, secret payments, emails exchanged with the hitman, and a recording where Claire orders the hit. A large screen flickered to life, playing the recording. Claire's cold voice echoed, "Take her out." No mercy. Claire's face turned ashen. Her defense lawyer leapt to his feet. Objection! The recording is doctored, but Judge Granger hammered her gavel, eyes like ice. Evidence is admissible. Objection overruled. A surprise witness. Then the first witness was called, Tara McConnell. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Tara, the same inmate who had protected Amara in prison. She stepped forward wearing her prison uniform, hair braided neatly. Under the blinding lights, Tara spoke. I witnessed Claire ordering people to assault Amara in prison. I heard her say, "If you can't kill her, make sure she never lifts her head again." Claire shrieked, "She's lying!" Tara smirked coldly. "I've lived in the dark long enough to know who's afraid of the light." Unmasking the truth. Next, another witness emerged. Nick Santos, a former Horizon Airlines employee. Nick trembled as he held the microphone. I helped Claire fabricate the fake video showing Amara attacking her. I was threatened. If I refused, I'd lose my job. Nick submitted a hard drive containing the original footage. No attack, no aggressive behavior. Only Claire deliberately provokes Amara and then pretends to fall. Whispers turned into a rising wave of outrage. Judge Granger banged her gavel. Order! The jury sways toward Amara. The jurors' eyes, once cold and skeptical, now burned with anger and empathy. A middle-aged white woman wiped away tears. A young black man clenched his fists. Amara could feel it. For the first time in months, hope took form before her eyes. The final break. Prosecutor Lillian wasn't finished. She marched right up to Claire. Defendant, do you have anything you wish to say to this court? Claire's lips quivered, her face deathly pale. She opened her mouth. But before a word escaped, a breaking news alert flashed on the courtroom screen. Transmitted from outside. Breaking news. The assassin pleads guilty. Confirms Claire Ramsey hired him to kill Amara Jackson for $100,000. The courtroom erupted. Judge Granger hammered her gavel. Order! Order! The defense lawyer buried his head in his hands, wishing to disappear. Claire screamed, "They're framing me. I'm the real victim. Two officers closed in, pulling her to her feet. cold steel cuffs locked around her wrists. Judge Granger pronounced, "Claire Ramsey, I find you guilty of aggravated assault, of conspiracy to commit murder, of incitement to violence, sentenced to 35 years in prison." Amara stood up. Marcus squeezed her hand. She lifted Isaiah into her arms, her eyes briefly meeting the jury. Then she walked out of the courtroom, not once looking back, leaving behind the insults, the lies, and Claire Ramsey. At last, justice had won. When the fire dies down, not everything turns to ash. Some people, like Amara Jackson, become diamonds. Pressure, pain, loss. All of it forged her into something the darkness could no longer consume. Wounds that haven't healed. 3 days after the trial, Amara stood quietly by the hotel window. Los Angeles sprawled beneath her, bustling and cold. On the table, a thick folder lay untouched. An official offer from the Horizon Airlines board of directors. New CEO. The one to lead the airline through the storm. Marcus sat a few feet away, watching Amara with a mix of pride and worry. Isaiah slept soundly in the crib near the sofa, each soft breath like a drumbeat soothing her heart. Amara pressed her forehead against the glass, feeling the chill seep into her skin. They had won a battle. But she knew better. Wars never ended so easily. The fateful call. The sharp ring of a phone shattered the silence. Amara hesitated, glancing at the screen. An unknown number. Marcus nodded. Amara picked up. "Ms. Jackson, this is Sharon Green, acting chair of Horizon Airlines. The board has voted. The decision was unanimous. We would like you to become the permanent CEO." Amara gripped the phone, her knuckles whitening. Every childhood dream, every moment of rejection being overlooked, shoved into the shadows, rose inside her like a tidal wave. She looked at Marcus. He didn't have to ask. His eyes answered, "You were born for this." "I accept," Amara said, her voice as soft as the morning mist, yet as solid as granite. A historic inauguration. The Grand Hall of Horizon Airlines overflowed with people. Rows of employees stood in immaculate uniforms. Reporters packed behind security barricades. Camera lenses glinted like cold steel eyes. Amara stepped onto the stage. No extravagant gown, no flashy makeup. Just a simple Amara. A sleek gray suit. A small wing-shaped pin on her lapel. Horizon's emblem. Deep brown eyes blazing with an unquenchable fire. She took the microphone. Her voice was deep, warm, slow, but every word struck deep into the hearts of those listening. "Today I do not step onto the stage for myself alone. I stand here for everyone who was ever rejected, ever humiliated, ever dismissed. I stand here to remind the world, every human being deserves a place in the sky." The hall erupted in thunderous applause. Chants filled the air. "Amara! Amara! Amara!" Many cried, not out of sorrow, but because for the first time they saw a victory that belonged to them. Undercurrents lurking that night, in her new CEO's office, Amara sat before a sea of emails. Not all were congratulatory. Some were threats, some were slander, some openly called for a Horizon boycott. Marcus placed a cup of tea in front of her. Amara gave a weary smile. "They won't give up so easily." Isaiah's soft cries echoed from the next room. Amara rose, cradled her son, and pressed her cheek against his milk-scented hair. This child. This was why she fought. This was why she would never back down. Claire Ramsey, the remnant. The next morning, unexpected news hit. Claire Ramsey filed an appeal. Several extremist former employees filed lawsuits against Horizon for reverse discrimination. Social media swelled with new hashtags. Did you save Claire? Ramsey, did you boycott? Horizon, did you reverse racism? Conservative news channels picked up the frenzy. Amara Jackson, hero or villain? In a hastily gathered boardroom meeting, Marcus slammed his fist onto the table. They won't stop until they destroy you. Amara looked up, her eyes clear, fearless. Let them try. The counterstrike strategy. Together with Evelyn's legal team and a newly assembled PR squad, Amara launched unreleased footage showing Claire hiring a hitman, witness testimonies from the trial, the full archive of emails, messages, and evidence exposing the fabricated video. A media campaign exploded across the nation. The truth about Claire Ramsey. Amara Jackson, unbreakable. A CEO, a mother, a symbol. Hashtag surged in response. Der Schrittbacher Justice for Amara, Mosker stand with. Amara, Binge Twitter ban hate. Not hope the people rise up. Thousands took to the streets. They carried signs that read, "Seats in the sky belong to all of us." An elderly white man around 70 years old raised a placard that said, "I once stayed silent. Today I stand with Amara." A little brown-skinned girl in a floral dress tugged at her mother's hand and whispered, "Mommy, she looks like me." It was these small moments. These flashes of connection reminded Amara why she couldn't lose. That evening, as Los Angeles bathed in the golden glow of city lights, Amara stood on the rooftop of Horizon headquarters. The wind lifted her hair into the night sky. Behind her, Marcus and Isaiah, her small, unbreakable family. Before her, an open, endless sky. She closed her eyes, took a deep, steady breath, and smiled. This is only the beginning. A desperate appeal. From the damp prison cell, Claire Ramsey tried to piece together the last remnants of her power. A new reckless team of inexperienced lawyers. A laughable appeal plan scribbled in desperation. Claire sat on her bunk, her nails clawing at the torn mattress. They want to bury me? Not that easily. Outside, the world had already turned its back. Her former ally, Ted, quietly disappeared after his sentencing. The extremist groups that once supported her were now under FBI investigation. Legal funding had been frozen by former donors. Claire was left with one last card: turn public opinion. A stranger appears that gloomy morning. In the prison visiting room, Claire sat waiting. The door opened. A woman entered, about 50 years old. Cold eyes, a worn gray coat, frail shoulders, but a spine as straight as steel. Claire squinted. "Who are you?" The woman pulled out a chair, sat down, and placed a document bag on the table. Her voice was cold and even, slicing like a blade. "My name is Linda Hawthorne. I used to be HR director at Memorial Airlines, the place you were fired from 10 years ago for racial discrimination." Claire stiffened. Linda unzipped the bag, pulling out worn, yellowing files. Complaints, internal emails, passenger testimonies. "I kept everything, and I've stayed silent long enough." The mask falls. Linda slowly flipped through the files. In 2015, Claire denied boarding to an African-American family despite valid tickets. In 2017, Claire shoved an Asian flight attendant and hurled racist slurs at her. In 2018, Claire tried to fabricate evidence to blame a black passenger for a mechanical error on a flight. Claire trembled. "What do you plan to do with that garbage?" Linda gave a cold smile. "I'm handing it to Horizon Airlines, to the press, and if necessary, to the federal courts." Claire's hands clenched tightly. Her breathing turned shallow. "How much do you want?" she hissed. Linda shook her head. "No money. I want justice." Justice cannot be bought. 3 hours later, the major news outlets exploded. The dark secrets of Claire Ramsey. Racial discrimination files resurface. Former HR director of Memorial Airlines breaks silence. Claire Ramsey, from victim to serial discriminator. On social media, Pro-Claire hashtags crumbled. Extremist accounts withdrew in silence. Outside Horizon Airlines headquarters, hundreds gathered holding signs. "We believe Amara." No place for hate. Inside her CEO's office, Amara watched the news with a bittersweet sense of relief. Marcus stood beside her, his hand resting on her shoulder. "It's over," he whispered. Amara didn't reply. She simply gazed out the window, where the first light of dawn pierced through the city skyline. The lesson after the nightmare. Linda Hawthorne became a national figure. Constant interviews, detailed accounts of Claire's decade-long discriminatory behavior. The whole country watched the collapse of a false idol. Claire lost her right to appeal. She was sentenced to 25 years for discrimination, assault, conspiracy to commit murder, fabricating evidence. During her final sentencing hearing, Claire wore a faded gray prison uniform. No more arrogance, just a broken figure, her eyes hollow. "Does the defendant have anything to say?" the judge asked. Claire clutched at her sleeves. A single tear slid down her cheek. "I just wanted to belong." A confession far too late, a repentance no one wanted to hear. Rising above hate that night, Amara held a short press conference. Standing before hundreds of cameras, she calmly declared, "We do not celebrate someone's fall, but we rejoice that the truth has come to light. Starting today, Horizon Airlines will implement the industry's first mandatory anti-discrimination code of conduct across the entire system." Other airlines quickly followed. The government announced new protections for passengers nationwide. A small flame Amara had kindled, now become a torch lighting up an entire industry. That night Amara cradled Isaiah as they watched the sky. Beside her, Marcus sat silently, hand in hand. Above, Horizon Airlines planes soared across the heavens, their lights blinking like mobile stars. Amara whispered, "You will grow up in a better world, my son. I promise." There are battles that, even when won, leave scars that never fully heal. But sometimes those very scars become wings that lift us higher than any pain ever could. A new flight. 3 months after the fateful trial, Horizon Airlines organized a special flight. Route, Atlanta, Los Angeles. Flight number, H777. A brand new Boeing 787 Dreamliner, with bold letters painted across its body. Every seat belongs to everyone. In first class, Amara Jackson held Isaiah, now toddling on his little feet. Marcus sat beside her, his hand clasped firmly in hers. No more suspicious glances, no more whispered prejudices, only warm welcomes from the flight attendants, passengers, and crew. Amara gazed out the window into the vast blue sky, a precious moment of peace earned through blood, tears, and countless unnamed nightmares. A special announcement. The cabin speakers crackled to life. The captain's voice echoed, "Ladies and gentlemen, today, we are not merely flying between two cities. We are soaring into a new chapter of justice and hope. Welcome aboard Horizon Airlines, where every passenger is treated with equal respect." Applause filled the cabin. Some wiped away tears. Isaiah giggled joyously on Amara's lap, his bright dark eyes sparkling with innocence untouched by hatred. Marcus tightened his grip on her shoulder and whispered, "You've changed this world." The aftermath of Claire Ramsey. In a maximum security prison in Northern California, Claire Ramsey sat silently in a cold, gray cell. No more lawyers, no more media attention. No one left to believe in her crocodile tears. She stared at an old newspaper clipping, the headline glaring, "Amara Jackson, the mother who redefined justice in the skies." Claire crumpled the paper and hurled it at the wall. The dull thud echoed, but no one else heard. No one cared. Memories that won't fade that evening. As the plane touched down in Los Angeles, Amara descended the glass jet bridge. Along the corridor, large posters hung proudly. Diversity is our strength. Everyone flies equal. Images of Amara, her warm smile, Isaiah cradled in her arms, had become symbols of the transformation Horizon now represented. A little girl, no more than 6 years old, sprinted up and hugged Amara's leg, looking up with awe. "I want to grow up to be like you." Amara knelt, wrapping the girl in a gentle embrace, her eyes stinging with tears. Marcus stood nearby, his gaze full of love. Amara smiled and whispered, "You can grow up to be even greater than me." The new system under Amara's leadership, Horizon implemented. The Respect First mandatory training program is for all employees. A zero-tolerance policy for any form of discrimination, no matter how small. The Horizon Wings Scholarship Fund for underprivileged children helps them pursue dreams of becoming pilots, flight attendants, or aerospace engineers. The change spread rapidly across the industry. Major airlines followed Horizon's lead. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, announced new standards for passenger protection. The slap Claire Ramsey once threw mid-air. It has now become the wake-up call for an entire generation. The honor ceremony. That Thanksgiving, Amara was invited to Washington, D.C., to receive the Civis Medal from the President. Isaiah, dressed in a tiny suit, playfully tugged at his mother's coat amid the crowd and stepped onto the stage, facing thousands of eyes. At that moment, she was not just a CEO, nor merely a symbol. She stood as a living testament for anyone who had ever been marginalized. "Freedom," Amara said, "is not a gift. It is a battle. And each of us must carry that torch forward." A rousing yet peaceful ending. On the final night of this story, Amara, Marcus, and Isaiah sat on the porch of their new home, a charming white cottage in the Los Angeles suburbs, surrounded by a garden full of daisies and a wind chime, the night breeze whispered. Stars twinkled across the vast sky. Marcus rested his hand gently on Amara's belly, where another tiny life was growing. She laughed softly. "Looks like we're starting another journey." Marcus leaned closer to his ear. "Are you scared?" Amara leaned against his shoulder. "Number, because this time we have a sky of our own." Far above, a Horizon Airlines jet soared across the night sky, its lights twinkling like a lullaby from the heavens to their little family. Lessons learned. Truth can be buried, justice can be delayed, but light never goes out. The story of Amara Jackson teaches us that no one is born with guaranteed fairness. Fairness is something we must stand up and fight for, with steadfastness, with pain, and with an unshakable belief. Not everyone who cries out victim is truly a victim. When hatred cloaks itself in the robes of morality, it becomes ever the only truth. How fragile it can tear that mask away. A lone voice can move an entire system. When Amara faced discrimination, slander, and the full force of a dark machine, she stood firm. And it was that strength, the strength of an ordinary person, that changed history. Victory is not just survival. True victory is transforming pain into strength. It's using the wounds that once tore you apart to carve out a better world for children like Isaiah. So, if one day you are pushed into a corner, crushed by injustice, torn apart by cruel words, remember, starlight does not come from outside. It begins within your own heart, and as long as you do not fall, the world can't turn its back on you forever. Real-world message from this story. Respect is not given freely. You must stand up and claim it. In a world still riddled with prejudice and injustice, the calmer you remains, theorem push you. The quieter you stay, the tighter they will squeeze. Amara Jackson did not go in because she was lucky. She on because she dared to step into the light, dared to face slander, brutal attacks, and never back down. The truth is powerless if kept hidden inside. Truth only becomes powerful when you dare to shout it out, when you dare to turn it into action. Claire Ramsey thought lies could buy her time, but lies cannot buy trust. And when the truth finally explodes, it burns down every empire built on deception. The most practical lesson: don't expect anyone to stand up for you. Don't wait for someone to apologize to you. Don't sit around hoping justice will happen on its own. You must seize the torch yourself and march straight through the darkness. Because light does not come to those who wait. Light only comes to those who dare to move forward.